I'm sorry, I was muted. Hi, everybody. My name is Lily, and I am here for the culture all day, every day.
All right. Brand new to the team, we got my man, Professor Mac. Terrence, introduce yourself, bro.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Terrence Mack, writer, poet, educator, just here for a great conversation.
All right. Hanif, you up?
I'm Hanif Nelson. Been on this panel for a while now. Enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking about issues that are needed to our community.
Rob Jones.
Hi, Rob Jones, the ubiquitous community member, always on deck.
Keyshawn.
Keyshawn Dawes, author, community activist, down for my people forever.
All right, y'all. And coming to the stream, we got my man, Mr. Donnie Wright, and we have Dallas Clark. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
All right.
Good evening.
So we talk about a lot of things as pertains to being Black in America. Over the past couple of weeks, we talked about what it was like to be a writer / author or storyteller and how our stories shape the narrative. We talked about Black economics. What else did we talk about, fellas? We talked about a little bit of everything, right?
Little bit of everything, man. We touch on all topics.
All right.
Social, economic, politics, everything that can be under the sun. Anything that affects us.
And the one thing we haven't talked about as of yet is for all our brothers and sisters who find themselves locked behind those walls. We haven't talked about that. That's a part of our family. Those are literally our family members. A reflection of who we are. It could have been any one of us on any given day based on any decision that we may or may not have made. So today we have my brother Donnie Wright, Dallas Clark. They're going to talk with us about that today. They're going to talk about, life behind the wall. We're going to talk about life after that wall, life after incarceration. They're going to talk to folks that folks know that, life still exists. We move on, we grow. And looking at these two brothers, we overcome our obstacles. So I'm going to stop talking. We're going to flip it. I'm going to start with Donnie and let Donnie introduce himself. And we're going to get it rolling. Is that cool with everybody? Yeah. All right. Mr. Wright, you are on deck.
Well, my story is I grew up in the city of Springfield, and at a young age, I experienced a lot of things, growing up too fast, and one of the things is my father, he was a hardworking man, took care of his family, but he liked to party, when the weekends came, invite his friends over for some drinks, some beers, and family members, aunts and uncles, and that's what they did. They drank, they listened to music, they had a good time. And that was my introduction to alcohol, because I was a beer boy, hey, boy, go get me and your uncle, a beer, or a shot. Yes, I would. I would, sneak a couple of beers for myself and my friends, And that's how my taste for alcohol began, and my mother, our parents, they kept medicine in the medicine cabinet. And I was a very curious kid, and I would try some of everything, and some of the things I didn't like, some of the things I liked. And that started when my addiction started to develop. I was probably around 8 or 9 years old. I had an affinity for cough medicine, NyQuil. I didn't know why. It's because it was 40% alcohol. That's why. And as I grew on, my addiction grew to more cough syrups and looking through my mother's pocketbook and medicine cabinets for something that would just make me feel good. I didn't know why. I just liked the different feeling that it gave. And as I got older, I experimented with more and more drugs. I was an experimenter, and then crack cocaine hit. And once crack cocaine hit, I was one of those people that were good at everything, and I became a very good drug addict. I was one of the best. And, I found myself, I was of good character, but I had a very serious drug addiction. And my first drug bust actually was in the 7th grade at Kylie Junior High School by the DEA, as a matter of fact. And, that really led me on a life, of of rebelliousness, because I didn't understand the nature of drug addiction, and I couldn't stop. And as my addiction progressed, I found myself homeless. I found myself one of the despised and thrown away in the community. And I was so bad, a lot of times I would walk down the street and people would spit at me because I was one of those people who would stand in front of the store and beg for change, wash somebody's car for $1, and that led me, to have to leave Springfield, and I went into a rehab, and I left Springfield and I went to Worcester, Massachusetts, where I found some semblance of recovery. And I also found that life wasn't fair because as a member of a treatment center, I was set up by one of the counselors and accused of stealing and thrown out of the program before I could finish. And that was my beginning of understanding that life wasn't fair, particularly in the justice system. And as I move forward in life, I got myself back together, and I found that my criminal record was preventing me from getting gainful employment. I had went back to college, I got an associate's degree, and so forth. And, it just, nobody would hire me. Nobody would hire me anything worthwhile. So I started selling drugs, and I sold drugs for a significant period of time before I got caught. And when I got caught, they threw the book at me, basically, because I was one of those individuals who they believe and felt that I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing because I had an education, but yet they didn't understand the dynamics of what a Corey, did for an African-American male. So basically what they did is they gave me pretty much the maximum sentence that they'd give me for drug trafficking and weapons possession. And I did 2 years on house arrest. And even though I made all of the accomplishments, that the probation office asked me to do, and I was a light for their department as far as turning your life around, the judge told me that he still had to send me to prison because I was convicted of a crime that carried a mandatory sentence. But what he did tell me was, Mr. Wright, I want you to go into that prison, and I want you to continue along your path of transformation. And I want you to be a light to those who are still in that prison and those who are still in the darkness, and come back out after completing your sentence and be a responsible member of this society. And when I came out, I still couldn't get a job. While I was incarcerated, I applied myself. I ran programs while I was in prison. I graduated from 2 universities while I was in prison. One, Boston University with honors cum laude. And when I got out, I had all of this education, licenses, certifications, but nobody would hire me. I would get jobs, some of them $50,000, $60,000 a year to start. They would hire me. You're going to fly me here, fly me there for training. I get all excited. Then my Corey comes back and they showed me the door. So that was a situation that I found myself in, that I could get a job, but I couldn't keep a job because of my Corey, no matter what my level of experience and education was. And I found that very frustrating. So what I did was, instead of hiding my status of incarceration, I started to let everybody know. I started to tell everybody what this society was putting me through, although I had done everything they asked me to do, jumped through every hoop that I could possibly jump through. And I was either going to make it with a job, or I was going to have to find any way means necessary to survive. So once I found that people were starting to listen, and I started to speak out on these injustices, of our society, I found myself being a mouthpiece for various organizations, which put me out in the forefront in the newspapers, on the news, about the injustice of our criminal justice system. And that's when people started to listen. That's when doors started to open for me, because people started recognizing me for the courage to speak out, for the people that are still behind the wall. And I have a responsibility to do that, because a lot of those people that I left behind are innocent. And a lot of them, they'll never get out, and they'll never be able to jump through the hoops that I've jumped through. But they depend on individuals like myself and other individuals who have turned their life around to let people know that we can change, that we can turn our lives around, and we do. And we need to get the word out. And that's my story.
Dallas Clark.
Yes, how you doing, Dallas? I like to thank you, man, because on what you said, like you kind of opened the doors for me. I always start off like, let people know that I am in recovery, and not just for drugs and alcohol, for gun violence. And as you was talking, like I always let people know that that me being in recovery, because everybody know what addiction look like, they don't know what recovery look like. And I always let people know that. And like what you was saying, like you open up the doors for me. Like I've been in jail, you know, in and out of jail. I did a long stretch. I got involved with, like I said, with different with criminal activities, selling drugs. That I start self medicating myself, start playing with guns, end up in jail for a while. And as I got out, you know, I just got out of jail again in 2017. Like I didn't learn. But this time around, man, when I hit a brick wall, man, like times had to change. I found myself getting more, like, you know, get more involved in the streets, and I couldn't, you know, how can I put it, like endangering my family and people around me. And I had to come for a change, man. And I ended up going into a halfway house. And at one time, I thought I was too good for that. You know, coming back off the streets and from getting money and all that. I said, this place ain't for me. Just for, you know, how we call like what crackheads and dope fiends like that. But I said I needed a change, and for me to need a change, I had to change people I'm around. So I got